It's 8:45pm on Monday, the 6th of March 2017, and this is the Cat's Whiskers podcast live. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Cat's Whiskers podcast. My name is Jono Bullard. Around the virtual pub table of chat, thanks for that, Mr. Baum, tonight is Paul Baum.
Hello.
Adam Reddish.
Good evening, everybody.
And Tina Taylor.
I can't believe you did that.
I can believe you did that.
Well, I always do.
She always does it. It's a trademark. It's a trademark. We should all have one. Anyway, tonight, if you would like to get in touch with us about anything we discuss on the show, you can do via Twitter. It's at Cat's Whiskers TV. And believe me, we have a lot to discuss on tonight's show. We'll be looking back on Panthers against Clan from Friday night. Yesterday's Challenge Cup final will also come under discussion, as well as all the news that's been coming out from the Elite League throughout the week, including Dave Sims getting into more controversy on Saturday night, and also news that Manchester and Milton Keynes have been put up for sale, along with all the other results and news, before we'll finish up by looking ahead to Panthers in Belfast this coming weekend. However, we will start on Friday night, the Panthers taking on the Braehead Clan at the NIC. Panthers coming away with a 5-4 victory. A goal fest in the first period as Matt Carter and David Sarkanis, with his first for the Panthers, gave Panthers an early 2-0 lead before Stefan De La Rova and Matt Becker pulled 2 goals back in quick succession within 15 seconds. David Clark restored the lead before Sarkanis with his second, and then Jeff Brown made it 5-2 30 seconds before the end of the first. Funnily enough, no scoring in the second period, but in the third, Braehead scoring twice, Scott Pitt and then Mike Hammond with 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go to make it a nervy ending. However, Panthers held on for a 5-4 victory. So, Paul, a great start, but Panthers allow Clan an easy opening back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, they did essentially the same thing twice during the game. I thought they went a couple of goals up and then sat way too far back, and the play to get those goals was was pretty good, but essentially we let Braehead just walk in and score and then do exactly the same from the face off, and all right, we got away with it, but you can't afford to do that. But we seem to do it time and time again. We go a couple of goals up and then we coast almost.
I mean, Tina, how did you see the game? Because I've only seen the highlights, so I wasn't there on Friday. It looked like Panthers stormed ahead, took their foot off the gas, stormed ahead again, and then just relaxed for the rest of the game. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's probably not too far off the mark. I mean, the 2-0 lead to start off with, it was really encouraging to watch. I mean, we've heard a lot of talk from the Panthers in the form of the PR coming from them and post articles about how it's all practice for the playoffs, and we're gearing up for playoff hockey and we want to be there at Final Four weekend. So yeah, to go 2 goals up that quick was really encouraging to see. But then it just went apart. I mean, how many times this season have we seen Panthers concede 2 quick goals and it just then lead to a spectacular collapse? I mean, I say thankfully because I mean, in terms of what this game means, I mean, it's just a bit of jostling for position for us, really. Clan have got their their seeding, their good seeding on account of them winning the Gardner Conference. So I mean, they're probably a little less concerned. I think it's just momentum, really. So yeah, when they got the 2 back to pull it back to 2-2, you just sort of rolled your eyes a little bit, and thought, well, on this sort of basis, if this is what we're gearing up, if we're gearing up for playoff hockey, then I'm less than impressed, to be honest. So it was the good thing was that we conceded those 2 quick goals, but we didn't have the spectacular collapse. And Clark, Sarkanis, and Brown, chucking the goals in before the end of the first period, it made you feel a little bit better. I mean, you sort of came to the end of the first period thinking, geez, this is going to be a cricket score if we're not careful. So, but yeah, it was this time round that those 2 quick goals from the opposition was actually a wake up call, rather than a trigger for Panthers to just stop bothering.
Adam, as a former netminder back in the day,
many years ago.
So the Clan netminder Zajkowski was pulled at the end of the first. He let in 5 goals on 14 shots. Was it him being bad, or was he hung out to dry? I mean, I thought from watching the highlights a little bit of both, but
yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think it's a mixture. He'd certainly won, I think, 3 of the goals back. Having seen them live and then watched them on the highlights back, just to make sure that I didn't see anything differently on the night. But yeah, he was hung out to dry really, really badly. Bread just started the game so slowly. It was odd, really, because they just looked so lethargic. Really bad case of bus legs, potentially. We go 2 up, and then there's that mad 17 seconds or so where after coasting we find ourselves 2-2, and then they stopped playing again. So they basically played for about 18 seconds in the first period. So yeah, I think as a team they did hang out the netminder pretty badly, but it was a combination: poor netminding and just allowing so much space in their defensive zone for us to do pretty much anything we wanted to do. You could see why the netminder was quite keen and anxious to leave at the end of the period. I don't think he would have been particularly looking forward to a second period, because I think his nerves were shot to pieces.
Gary Russell, who came in for Zajkowski, faced 17 shots and he didn't let one in, and that got him the start the next night against Dundee as well. So I think he's been getting quite a few starts just lately for the Clan, and I think he seems to be the preferred netminder these days.
Yeah, he does, and I don't think he had to do anything absolutely fantastic after he replaced Zarkowski on Friday night. But he wasn't flashy, but by the same token, he looked really competent. Everything he did was quite assured, and you could tell that the team, and more particularly the defence, had a lot more confidence in him. They did tighten up, which probably helped whoever was going to be in net. But I think collectively the team tightening up the defence, and also Russell looking a bit more confident and capable between the pipes, helped Braehead, plug the gaps and stop the leaks, and give them a fighting chance at the end to salvage something from the game.
Paul, David Sarkanis, he's been under a bit of discussion since he joined the club. He gets his first 2 goals for the Panthers on Friday night. The first one was quite excellent, I thought. The second one was, I think, Zajkowski will want back, because I think he left too much of a gap, but it was still well taken on the backhand. A bit of a monkey off the back for him.
Probably. You could tell how happy he was to score, even managed to celebrate as he slid across the ice. So
that was a brilliant celebration.
He did quite well to sort of bring that back. But I think he's been improving. I think, if I'm honest, the jury is still out a bit for me. He's pulled some back. I was starting to wonder why we'd brought him in, but a couple of goals, and let's see what happens. He'd probably done his confidence the world of good, and let's see where we go from here.
Tino, the line of Sarkanis, Betteridge and Lakovic seems to be tearing up some trees at the minute.
Yeah, it's really encouraging. You've got to. You can only play what's put in front of you. Ding, get the cliche out. But they were getting some serious minutes. They were getting more minutes than I would have expected them to get, and it wasn't very often you saw that particular line split up. They went out as a unit, and Bettridge had a good night. He got 2 assists. He got the primary assist on both of Sarkanis's goals. So it's nice to see that Bettridge has been able to profit from this, this little partnership that has sort of developed between the two of them. And, I sort of made a joke about it on Friday. When you look at that line, you've got Lakovic as your veteran, which is just is an interesting way to look at it, really. But, in terms of how long Lako's been around, you can sort of, you can maybe think of him in that sort of fashion. And I think although he didn't get in on the points on those goals, he was the steady head on that line. He sort of let the two more energetic youngsters get on with it, and look where it got them. Goals is goals, and if it sort of kicks you off and kick-starts something good, then all's the good for me. Just before we sort of move on, just wanted to make a quick point about Gary Russell. I believe he is the most used backup netminder in the Elite League. If you sort of think of even like Jackson Whistle, he hasn't been used as many times as Gary Russell has. So there's a lot of confidence coming from the Clan camp with their backup netty.
And he's also, save percentage wise, he's also doing better than Zukowski, because he's 89.3 to 89.2, so there's not a lot in it, but he has got a better save percentage, albeit that Zukowski does have a 3.23 goals against average to 3.40 for Russell, but
you wouldn't expect it to be that close, though.
No,
you really wouldn't. I mean,
between.
no offense to Russell, because as I say, there's a lot of confidence coming from the Clan camp for him, but you really wouldn't expect it to be that close between your starting import netminder and your British backup goalie. So good on him.
One sour point from the night was Brian McGrattan getting a 10-minute misconduct penalty off referee Dean Smith for sarcastically tapping the ice after he'd come out from a interference penalty that Clan had scored on in the third period. I mean, Paul, what was your take on that?
Yeah, it wasn't the smartest thing you'll ever see anybody do, but from my sort of black and gold tinted spectacles, he was probably right. The two calls, I mean, the first one, he got called for an interference earlier in the game, which was more of a cross check. But the second one, you see the Brayhead player. Well, it were like watching Jane Torville throw herself around Christopher Dean. Frankly, all McGrattan appeared to do was pretty much stand there, and the Brayhead player wrapped himself around him, fell to the floor, and that's it. Smith was suckered, but so yeah, I don't think he was impressed, but you can't really do things like that.
Can't really do things like that. I think we'll be talking about that later. Adam, I just want to finish with you because you made a few stinging comments about the performance on social media on Friday night. From what I saw, about saying it wasn't good enough. Just give us your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I just thought that, some people will say a win's a win and you can only beat the opposition that's in front of you. I get that, and winning is good. But I just thought with one game this weekend, we could have put a bit more into it, I thought, and give a big crowd something to really get excited about. Because, you look at the scoreline, it was 5-4. It implies that it was an exciting game. But there were large parts and passages of it, particularly the second period, where it was just flat. There's very, very little happening. So I think that it kind of goes back to what we were talking about towards the start of the show, where the Panthers just keep shooting themselves in the foot, making life harder for themselves, or harder than it needs to be, by having these like mad moments where, you know, they throw a really good promising position away and then they have to fight hard. And there was no way in the world that they should have had to have, you know, hung on the way they were hanging on at the end of that game on Friday. You know, they should have had at least 3 or 4 goals between them and Braehead. But, you know, we had to work unnecessarily hard, I think. Whereas, you know, if we'd kept the foot down, you know, when we when we got 5-2 up at the end of the first period, you know, we could have run up a big score against Braehead. You know, really, really got the fans out of the seat and, you know, take some momentum from the game. But, you know, in the end, it shows a 5-4 game, and it was quite close, even though it really wasn't. But at the end, you know, we were hanging on a bit. So I just thought we could have played a bit more freely and, you know, put a bit more into it and, you know, made the scoreline a little bit more one-sided. Because, to be honest, I don't really rate Braehead at all. I know they're the conference champions, but it's a poor side. It really is. And I thought we could have maybe you know, really swept them away with a lot more ease than we did in the end.
Yeah, to sort of back up what Adam's saying, I'd probably agreed with that. I was agreeing with him in the pub afterwards. There was a lot of talk from the club before about this new style they were going to be playing and, you know, building for the playoffs. And yeah, first again, like against the last home game, the first 20 minutes we were playing this new style, but it seems that's as long as we can play it for. And
Yeah.
you know, to be honest, it didn't look at times like anybody had actually told the defence that we were playing this new high tempo style either.
Okay.
It just, you think a 5-4 game, you think, oh, you know, that was a thriller, but it wasn't really.
No, not over the 60 minutes.
Oh.
I mean, the first 20 had most people out of the seats. And, you know, we all thought the scoreline was going to end up 12-7 or something like that. But
Well, I was seeing sort of on Twitter where people saying that there's going to be 10 goals here scored by Panthers, because that's how it looked after.
Yeah.
And if we'd have kept it up, they could easily have been. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, right? You know, fair play to Gary Russell. He came in and he played well. He saved what was put on him, but there was none of the intensity or the quality, I didn't think, in the last 40 minutes as there was in the first 20.
No, I agree.
I was really looking forward to us running up a big scoreline against Braehead Clan, because I always enjoy a Ryan Finnerty meltdown, but it didn't happen. although having said that, somebody did tweet me, Tammy, who sits on the row behind me, she wanted to clarify whether or not I'd heard Finnerty say, as well as she had, to say to somebody else on the bench, stop being effing terrible.
That is conference winning coaching. That is.
That's coaching 101.
I really hope it was true, but I missed it. So I'm in my mind now that happened.
I can relate to that. I had it said to me many times during my short recreational hockey career. Right, we shall move on to other Panthers news. And the Panthers survey has been running for a week. Still 2 weeks to respond. This is for the fans' favourite player and the most entertainment player. The current top 3 in no particular order for each. For the fans' favourite is Nicky Forrick, Robert Farmer and Mika Vikman. For most entertaining player is Brian McGrattan, Alex Nikiforuk again, and Mika Vikman. I mean, Paul, you wrote an article on this today, which can be found on the Cat's Whiskers website, www.thecatswhiskersonline.co.uk. Click on Paul Baum and you'll be able to read that article. How easy was it for you to pick your choices, and are they amongst that top 3?
Oh, that would be telling. One is yes, they both are, and I think what I was trying to say is basically that I mean, they were fairly easy decisions, not because any of the players have either been the favourite or the most entertaining. It's just they've been sort of, for want of a better phrase, best of a bad bunch. You know, a lot of the time it's, you know, people, you know, I've seen people talking about, you know, voting for Nicky Forrick because he came back from for the Continental Cup final. I mean, the fact that basically, having been a father twice, at that point, there's very little you can do anyway. But it basically, as good as that was, what it basically says is there's been very little else that's caught anybody's eye. I'm in a good mood tonight, aren't I?
Yeah, sorry, if I could just chuck my two-penny thing just to sort of back Paul up. There's, in terms of pure entertainment value, I think I don't think we haven't got any characters in the team. We've not got anybody who, I mean, it's sort of well reported that Chris Lawrence has got a very dry sense of humour, but that's not something we see on the ice. It's not something that we know about as fans who are watching from a distance. We don't see that because usually Chris Lawrence is all business on the ice. He just sort of gets on with it. Now last season by a country mile it was probably Cam Jansen because the entertainment value that he brought was he just had energy on the ice, and he'd put on a good hit, and you could just feel it. You could just feel the energy from him, and I put Jansen in this team, he'd have run away with most entertaining player. He'd just absolutely run away with it because we just don't get the characters. We just haven't got the characters anymore. I mean, I think
he'd also been a far sight closer to being best player than he was last year as well.
Well, yeah, very much so. But it's not necessarily a detriment to the rest of the players. But when you're asking the question of something like most entertaining player, you have to be sure that there are actually some answers. So I don't think that most entertaining player was it just doesn't. I have voters, but. It was a really tenuous reason. I voted for Nicky Foruk, but not because he went back to Italy for the Continental Cup final.
We had a tweet in from Joe Barm at Joe Barm 26. You might know him, Paul. And he says in my honest opinion, Brown does everything Nicky Foruk does, but better. Why not the same recognition? Is it a surprise due to his height? And I must admit, looking at those top three, I'm surprised that Jeff Brown isn't included in one of those categories, because I think Jeff Brown's been good value this season, to be honest. I mean, Adam, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't understand the sort of love and adulation for Nicky Foruk, because I think he's quite an average hockey player when all's said and done. Yeah, he's got these flashes of aggression where he whirls around the ice like Tasmanian devil, but we haven't seen enough of that, to be honest. And I totally agree with what Tina was saying about it being a very bland roster, all said and done, because there just isn't any spark or creativity on there. There's no player that gets you off your seat and gets you excited about what they might do. And to be honest, it's quite disturbing that Mika Wiekman's in the most entertaining player category, and doing so well. I mean, good God, do you want your netminder to be entertaining? Personally, I want him to be as good as possible at saving shots. If they do anything
which, to be
else,
fair,
that's
he
great.
is.
Yes, he is. And he is a good netminder, but I think it's a really tough decision, for those two categories that you've talked about as to who to pick. Now, I think, for personally, one of my favourite players that I've enjoyed watching this year has been Lindhagen, because I think he's fantastic. If you ask him to play forward, he does it well. If you ask him to play D, he does it incredibly well. And the versatility that he's showed, switching between both ends of the ice, has been fantastic. Sometimes he's done it within the same game. So if you're looking at some technical sort of metrics, then I think that he's certainly got to be up there in the fans' favourite.
He was definitely my fans' favourite, I have to say.
I think the thing with Nicky Foruk, in a way, I liken him to Max Perront. He had that he will probably never be forgotten for having that little moment with Joe Grimaldi, but that doesn't mean you necessarily want him back.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Panthers are working on dates for the playoff quarter-finals now that qualification has been confirmed, as it was with the win on Friday night. We have had a tweet in about that. It comes from Panthers 6233 Sam. He says, in shock that Panthers have included the playoff quarter-final leg on the season ticket. Well, it was announced.
Didn't.
Well, it was announced that was part of the season ticket package when they went on sale at the end of last season. However, today Panthers put on a tweet or put out a press release that season ticket holders would have to buy their seats. It was confirmed it was a mistake after a bit of Twitter pressure, and it has been reverted back, and that game will now be on the season ticket, I am glad to say. So I suppose a quick straw poll, if that game had not been on the season ticket, would you have gone?
Given that my car failed its MOT on Friday, no.
Probably not.
Paul?
I wouldn't exactly be rushing to the box office. But you've got to say, Panthers did have a bit of a social media mare today, didn't they?
Yeah, a little bit.
Publishing the wrong date for the next home game as well.
I didn't see that. I'm guessing this is what you was alluding to in your tweet, which I did see, but I didn't see the original
put
tweet.
That it was the 21st rather than 22nd.
Yeah. By the time I got to that, I think they deleted the original tweet, so I couldn't see what you'd actually responded to. But yeah, what a day, Panthers! What a day.
They'd probably swap places with other teams at this moment, or wouldn't. Other teams would swap places with them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, talking of other teams, we will move on to the Challenge Cup final, which took place yesterday at Ice Arena, Wales. The Cardiff Devils winning the Challenge Cup for the third time in their history with a 3-2 victory over the Sheffield Steelers, who are runners-up for the sixth time in the Elite League era. Would you believe it? The goals, Fournier, Lewis and almost scoring the goals for Cardiff, Dowd and Waugh with the goals for Sheffield. However, the story of this game is the fact that Cardiff outshot the Steelers by 40 shots to 19, and it was a bit of an Alamo for the second and third periods, with only Irvins Mustakov, who I have been a big critic of, but I must say he did play very well yesterday, keeping the Steelers in the cup final. But it wasn't.
You won't find out, though. You won't find out you're being nice about it now he's blocked you on Twitter.
Well, considering I have never had any interaction with him on Twitter whatsoever, I find that incredible. But there you go.
Well, some sort of preemptive strike, obviously.
But no, I mean, I will give credit where it's due. It was a good performance from what I saw on Craig Summerton's Periscope. Thank you very much for that, Craig. My wife was very happy because she couldn't get onto the website to buy the webcast, and that's probably one of the talking points. One of the sad talking points that's come from it is the failure of the webcast for a large amount of subscribers, and that's just not good enough, is it?
Well, considering that that was supposed to be the only way you could watch the game out, apart from actually being there, which it was sold out. If you think back a year ago, who was showing it? The BBC. And Ice Time TV ordinarily usually do a very good webcast. It's rare that it fails, and if I had to put some money on, and I apologise to the boys in advance if I'm completely way off the mark. It sounds like demand exceeded what was able to be supplied. I think there may have been an underestimation of exactly how many people were going to watch that webcast, which you live and learn. Usually they're only catering to two fan bases. Potentially there could have been people watching from all fan bases, and of course with the showpiece final you've got friends and family of players who are off in various different countries who probably want to watch as well. I think I think unfortunately it's a little bit of a sad story because of where we were last year. You know, our Auntie B was covering us last year, and again, I want to stress this is no detriment to Ice Time TV, but this kind of thing should not be covered on a webcast.
How much of it though? How much of it does have to be laid at the Elite League's door? I mean, anybody who didn't get a ticket, their team didn't get a ticket, automatically got a £2 voucher off, and the way they were pushing, they must have known. But you know that's really, you know, like Tina says, that's really not the issue here. Although if you paid your £10, it probably was. The issue here is that, you know, a year ago, almost exactly, it was on the BBC. We've gone from that to, all right, yes, it's free to air, you know, a channel that nobody really knows about, and having to watch, you know, big games like that on webcast. I mean, is there even going to be a webcast for the playoffs or anything?
Well, no, nobody knows. I mean, I don't...
Well, if there is going to be a webcast, will it be able to cope? Is the question? I would imagine.
Right now, they're in a situation where they can go, right, what do we need? You know, we've seen the demand. We've seen what we can supply. What can we do to increase the supply? They've essentially got a month to sort that out if they're going to do it. You know, the biggest problem is when you don't learn from your mistakes. But then again, this is British ice hockey, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Pearce has sent a tweet to us. He says, "Don't blame Ice Time TV. Try putting the blame on the Elite League." And I bought it up before, but you know, Premier Sports offered a 3-figure deal for 3 years coverage, which would include the Challenge Cup final, and it was turned down. So there you go. I think it's sad that a showpiece final like that was not shown live on a channel somewhere or online somewhere. It had to rely on a webcast, and I just don't think that is a very good reflection of the Elite League, to be quite honest.
Everyone were showing chess boxing at the time. Chess boxing is something completely different, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm. However, one thing I did notice is that the cup has changed again. So, I must admit, it does look better now. because I've got to admit that the sort of Premier League rip-off that we got that replaced the original one, which was a very nice trophy. It just seems odd that within, I think, 3 years again, it's been changed.
Well, I saw a Twitter exchange today between Panthers Banter and Craig from Elite League Media, and apparently Craig said that apparently we were allowed to keep it last year. I don't really get that. I mean, I get that we replaced the last one under the guise of we've won it 3 times, so we're going to keep it and make a new one, but actually we broke it. So you know, that's fine, and I get that, but we haven't won it a further 3 times since then, have we?
No, we've won it twice.
Yeah, exactly. So why we get to keep it is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. You may as well bring it, have a different trophy each season if that's the case, but
well, it wouldn't make it the competition any less thought of, except by the winners.
Well, talking of the winners, the Cardiff Devils, it could be the first trophy in a Grand Slam. They're doing very well in the league, and Adam, they look the team in form, on fire, just the team to beat.
They do. It feels like I've flip-flopped so many times this year. You know, when we've talked about Cardiff, I've said, yeah, they're nailed on for the league, and then they've lost a couple of games. I've said, oh no, they're going to bottle it. They're going to drop down the league like a stone. But yeah, I think that they're playing good hockey at the right time now. You know, there's not long in the season left. Yesterday will give them massive confidence. It's always good to have a trophy in the bag, because it just gives you that confidence for the remainder of the league season. And if they do well and they see that through and they win the league as I expect them to, then they'll go into the playoff format. absolutely buzzing. So, yeah, potentially a Grand Slam is in the offing for Cardiff.
But talking about the Steelers, a 4-1 defeat on Saturday night against the Coventry Blaze, which virtually puts them out of league title contention, 10 points behind with 6 games to play. They lose the Challenge Cup final on the Sunday, so a particularly bad weekend. But a tweet from Chris Taylor coming to us. He says, how fickle hockey fans are. Steelers now saying Tomo out. They need to see hockey from the likes of Edinburgh fans, still loud and proud. Is that fair, or is it just a case of expectation?
Ooh, difficult one. I mean, whether you like them or not, Sheffield's fan base have always had high standards. They've always wanted to win. And when things haven't gone right for them, they've been very, very vocal about wanting to see change. And, that's probably the one thing I admire about the Sheffield fan base is that, they've got that desire and will to win. And they want to win at almost any cost. And part of me wishes that our fan base, that the Panthers had that sort of mentality, because we might have won a few more league titles than we have over all of these years. But it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, how representative are the Tomo Out Brigade on social media? Is it just a few people that have got very strident opinions about him not being the coach for next season?
Well, I had
a
quick look at Steel Talk, and it seems to be quite prevalent on there. But again, that is a very small sample of the fan base. Yeah.
I mean, unless you actually sit amongst the crowd during a match night, which I'm not inclined to do, given that I'm a Panthers fan, you won't really know definitively what the view is about Thompson, and whether he's liked or loathed by the fan base as a whole. But given his links with Sheffield in the past as a player, and the fact that he's rather big mates with Mr. Sims, I'd be very surprised if Thompson was released at the end of this season. I fully expect him to be there at the start of next season.
Okay. Moving on to other news in the Elite League, and we have to cover it, but Dave Sims has been hauled over the social media coals for a potentially homophobic comment during the Steelers Kiss Cam feature on Saturday night, where 2 guys kissed, and he said jokingly, admittedly, of security, get them out of here. To add some context, my wife was at the game, and she said from the comment there was absolutely no way that it was meant maliciously. It was said in a joking manner. However, in this day and age, you cannot say things like that in front of 5,500 people, and that is widely what's been said on social media. There, of course, been people defending it as well. I must admit, my own personal opinion is it wouldn't have offended me, but I know that people were offended, especially some people in the lesbian, gay and transgender community. So it's a touchy subject, guys, and but it's something we have to discuss. So just your general thoughts on it. So who wants to start off?
I'll start. Well,
go on.
I mean, for me, you said something that shouldn't be said in front of 5,500 people. I don't think it should have been said in front of one, personally. But to move away from what you said, what I'm getting increasingly fed up with, and this is probably not just Sims, this is probably the world in general. I don't know if it's my age or what, but this whole sort of concept that you can say what you like as long as you apologise after, and because you've said something, but I didn't mean to say it. I mean, maybe he didn't mean it, maybe whatever. But as soon as he apologises, you've got to think everything's all right. No, I'm sorry, not really. At the end of the day, the best course of action is not to say these things in the first place, not to just go, just say what you like and then go, oh, I didn't mean it. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologise. This happens too often. This has happened with Sims too often. I'm sorry, it's probably the way the world's going. It's probably me getting old. I don't know, but I just think that there are better ways to conduct yourself to actually, what happened to thinking before you're speaking?
I mean, the Steelers put out a statement today apologising for it, but it seemed to be a bit, in my opinion, a bit sweep it under the carpet and we'll not mention it again. I mean, how did that come across to you guys, Tina?
Well, yeah, I mean, it didn't feel much like an apology, to be honest. It was more like it was a just very brief and rushed kind of, maybe not rushed, but a very brief sort of, he didn't mean it kind of thing. It's the trouble is, Dave Sims comes from a different era, and that's the problem being that he is in a position. He's in the position that he's in. He has a microphone, and he is trying to be a part of an entertainment package for anything between 3,000 to 8,000 people, and there's a certain amount of you need to think before you speak. What was once acceptable is not acceptable anymore. It's still a very I don't want to say it's a touchy subject. That's the wrong thing to say. It's delicate because there's so much going on in the world right now in terms of the LGBT community. There's a lot of fear for them, and there's still an awful lot of there's still I don't want to put my foot in it myself, but you cannot afford to make the jokes now that once were acceptable. It's just too scary for it's too you just cannot do it. You have to adjust to the here and now. You cannot spend your time living in the past. It's like you go out into the working world. Not all women are secretaries anymore. So you can't afford to walk into a boardroom and look at the nearest woman and ask her to go and make you a cup of tea. That's not how it works now. So, once upon a time, two blokes kissing might have been something that was extremely frowned upon. But the world is changing, and you have to change with it. If you don't evolve with the world, then you find yourself being left behind.
Yeah. Okay. Adam, anything to add?
Not really. I think Paul and Tina have covered the issue very, very extensively and comprehensively. I would say that Sims is an ambassador for Sheffield Steelers, and this surely doesn't do that organisation any sort of credit whatsoever. And I do agree with Tina, I think, who talked about the statement that the club have released today. I thought it lacked sincerity in a big way, and I totally agree that it was almost a case of quick, let's rush something out there, almost as like a holding apology, which I thought was a missed opportunity, because the club should have come out and even if it was said very jokingly, they should have absolutely condemned it, unequivocally. But whilst they kind of did to a certain degree, I thought they could have done a lot more. And, Paul was right as well. Sims has got such a long history of saying inappropriate things. It's almost, a lot of people become immune to the things that he says. But, this time, I think it's touched a raw nerve. And, I'm sure there'll be an investigation. I'm sure the club are looking at it. And we can't really comment too much until that's all been wrapped up. But, everyone's right in the sense that we have moved on as a society. Things that, were once, condoned or not condoned, but, talked about fairly freely. You can't talk about these days, and or not to that degree, because we're a more tolerant world, we're a more tolerant society. So for somebody to make, even if it came across as a jokey sort of comment over the microphone in the arena at the weekend, as I said at the start, it's just bad for the reputation of the club. The club don't need those sorts of headlines, I'm sure. So, the ball's in the club's court. What are they going to do about it? It's a case of watch this space.
Sorry, can I just add something in just before we sort of move on with it? But just as a sort of final comment, and I've been trying to sort of formulate the sentence that I want to formulate correctly, that I didn't manage to do before. There is still an awful lot of persecution, for want of a better word, towards anybody that is a little bit different. And the thing that is the thing that is a kind of a hot topic at the moment. The people who are fighting the most, or seemingly the most at the moment, to be accepted are the LGBT community. And for somebody who has a microphone that broadcasts to 5,500 people to say, albeit it was a joke, but for them to sort of say, I don't think that's an acceptable thing for you to be doing, that just really sends the wrong message. So
I think what you're trying to say, Tina, is that it just adds additional problems where they don't need any additional problems.
No, exactly.
And the thing, I'm just looking on Twitter now, and it appears it's made Puck Daddy in the USA, which is a huge hockey site. So that's not going to be great publicity for British ice hockey in the slightest. And from other things I've been seeing on social media, it seems that a Sheffield councillor is also taking it up and wants an investigation. And this guy happens to be a director of SIV, who own the Sheffield Arena. So I think there's probably quite a long way to run in this yet. And the thing is, it's only going to make British ice hockey look bad, and hopefully it will allow British ice hockey to get its house in order a bit, because these things just need to stop.
Yeah,
because it's just making the whole sport look bad, and we can ill afford for that to happen.
It certainly disproves the theory that all publicity is good publicity, doesn't it?
No, this is shocking publicity,
because this is terrible,
it shouldn't happen. It should not happen. But I'm sure it will drag on, and I hope it reaches a acceptable conclusion. Okay, moving on to other news, and some surprising news as well, is that it was announced today that Milton Keynes Lightning and Manchester Storm have both been put up for sale by Silver Blades and Planet Ice, who said they would like to invite expressions of interest to operate the franchises for both teams. The decision has been made to allow Silver Blades and Planet Ice brands to focus on their core business of operating ice rinks, more so considering further impending expansion of the business portfolio with new facilities in Bristol and Leeds on the way, as well as a temporary ice rink in Slough. I mean, what did you make of this? I mean, Paul, do you think this is bad news for Milton Keynes and Manchester?
It's not good news, is it? I mean, we don't know what's going on in the background.
No.
It could be that they've made this statement and somewhere down the line, all of a sudden 2 buyers have been found. But it's not a good situation. We keep hearing about how ice hockey is more stable than it certainly has been in the time me and you have been watching, Jono.
Yeah.
Number of clubs we've seen come and go, and it does seem, although we know we've had situations this year with Manchester, Phoenix, that is, but it does, it does bring that element of uncertainty again. I mean, let's face it wouldn't be a summer, an ice hockey summer, would it, without a team with an uncertain future in this league? But I tell you what, it does bring into stark contrast, though.
What's that?
If Tony Smith had kept that 50-50 money this week, he could have bought one of them. Then he could stop moaning about Neil Black having 2 clubs and twice as much influence.
Claire Freeman from Hockey Night in Manchester has been in touch on Twitter. She says knows someone with cash interested in an ice hockey club. So.
Oh no!
Unfortunately,
shall we all have a whip round?
yeah. A bit of crowdfunding. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Crowdfunding, buy an ice hockey team.
Just imagine the possibilities, eh?
I mean, I think from what I saw is that they will both continue to support both teams until a buyer is found. So it's not as if they're just going to cut them off and let them run. But yeah,
the worrying thing for me though, Jono, is that obviously Milton Keynes are making that step up from the EPIL this season to playing Elite League hockey next season. So, their overheads are going to dramatically increase because they're making a step up from 6 import hockey to whatever the number is next year. Is it? Someone have to remind me about the number of imports that we've agreed to for next season, or is it still in a state of flux?
It's still not been confirmed.
But anyway, it'll be a doubling nearabouts of
the only thing
the imports that they're planning to what they run with this year. So I just hope that uncertainty doesn't drag on for too long, because the worst possible thing is to actually make this step up into a new league and then have all that sort of financial baggage in the background, because we want stable hockey organisations coming into the Elite League. We don't want teams coming in with question marks already over their financial futures, because it's not good for their fans, it's not good for the league in general. So I just hope the situation's resolved really quickly, and that Planet Ice managed to find 2 willing and competent buyers for both of the clubs.
Yeah, the only thing I would say to that, I completely agree where you're coming from, Adam. But I think with the moaning, both the Manchester Storm and the Milton Keynes Lightning, you'd like to think that they've got some idea what those overheads are going to increase to, because they've already got a team in the Elite League. So I think it was good of them to put out a statement, to say that they are committed to supporting the teams until a buyer is found. I mean, I suspect that will only go so far, but I'd like to think that they've got half an idea what to expect. So yeah, again, just to echo what Adam said, hopefully it is resolved quickly.
Some good news and some nice positive news to talk about. It's that the Belfast Giants played the Manchester Storm on Saturday. Giants with a 5-2 victory that keeps them in title contention, 7 points behind the Cardiff Devils, who beat the Storm 4-2 on Friday. However, there was a young Storm fan, Sebastian, there, and his family, and he's a poorly lad, unfortunately, but he was taken out onto the ice. He was pushed around at the lap of honour at the end. He met all the players, and just fantastic hospitality from both teams. And we've talked about the negative. This is the positive, and this is what the teams can do the best, is the way that they look after their own, the way that they bring fans like this on. They give them the experiences, the time of their life, and it's just absolutely fantastic to see.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, can somebody follow up with Puck Daddy about this story, please? Because this is the kind of publicity that we want out there. It's very easy to jump on the negative. I think I've said it before. One of my favourite song lyrics that a friend of mine wrote is "Bad news has the wings, good news must dream of growing," and I think it's so true. So I would very much like somebody to in fact, anybody who's listening, just tweet that story. Find it from the Belfast Giants or Manchester. Tweet it at Puck Daddy and say, this is more like our league. This is more like what happens. We have good stuff here.
I couldn't have put it better myself. Quick look at the rest of the results. So we mentioned that the Steelers losing 4-1 to the Blaze. It puts them out of title contention, more or less. A great weekend for the Dundee Stars. 2 victories, a 4-1 victory over the Braehead Clan on Saturday night, and then a 5-1 victory over the Edinburgh Capitals on Sunday night, which puts them back into the playoff places and sees Manchester Storm drop now into 9th place. Edinburgh Capitals with a 5-3 victory over the Fife Flyers. However, they still remain in 10th place. So, that bottom battle now. Coventry find themselves in 7th place on 41. Dundee 8th on 40. Manchester 9th on 39. And Edinburgh 10th on 34. So, yeah, Coventry having played 48 games. The rest having played 46. I mean, Paul, that is a hell of a battle.
It is. I mean, I think Manchester have still got one ace to play, so they've got to play us twice, so that's 4 points. But, you know, it's all to play for. Remember, anybody can beat anybody else in this league on any given night. But going back to, the Coventry game, Sheffield have got a bit of a poor record for moaning about games they have to play in places or times they don't want to, haven't they?
Yeah, but you're going to have to expand on that because my memory's gone.
They moaned at length about the strange phenomenon of having to play 2 games in a weekend this weekend, and look at the Challenge Cup.
Oh, last year, yes.
Last year, yeah. Well, I mean, karma, wasn't it?
Yeah, certainly was. Looking at the top,
clutching at straws, I know, with this season, but hey, what are you going to do?
Looking at the top, though, Cardiff 7 points clear of Belfast with 6 games to play. However, Cardiff do have to play Belfast twice and Sheffield twice in those 6 games. I mean, Adam, do you think they've done enough now, or do you think it's still?
No, there's still work to do, isn't there? I don't think they can afford to rest on their laurels because, as you say, they've got games against the better teams in the league to come, and it would only take maybe 2 defeats to Belfast, because obviously I think Sheffield are too far back now to win the title, but Belfast will definitely still be motivated to try and catch Cardiff, and those 2 games they've got against.
Well, they are the final 2 games of the season.
Yeah, well, there could be a 4-point swing there, which could see the title go from Cardiff to Belfast. So, but I guess it kind of puts Panthers in a bad place, really, because Belfast are going to not want to slip up at all, are they? In the weeks leading up to that 2-game series with Cardiff. So, whilst we might be being experimental and trying new things out for the playoff series, I think Belfast are going to be deadly serious for the 2 games this weekend.
And that moves us nicely into the 2 games this weekend. So Panthers will be playing the Belfast SEC Arena in a doubleheader Friday with a 7 p.m. face-off, and then on Sunday, which I believe will be a 4 p.m. face-off. So a day's rest in between the 2. Panthers trail Giants by 16 points. So, Paul, can you see these games as anything more than warm-ups for the playoffs, or with Belfast still hunting the title, is there a lot more in it for them?
Oh, there's way more in it for them, definitely. All we've got is play for's pride and a bit of momentum, and we don't really appear to be picking up much of either. Frankly, I'm sorry, I can't see anything other than 2 Belfast wins.
Okay. Tina, you no word from the Panthers yet, but Logan McMillan was cited for a possible return on Friday, so you would have to think he's probably going to be back for these 2 games.
Oh, who knows? Panthers' injury wheel is a bit like the wheel of Dops, isn't it? So just spin the wheel and see where it comes out. I mean, yeah, as they were sort of banging on about it, McMillan could be back on Friday, and no McMillan, no Logan McMillan. So yeah,
he's probably got injured again.
Well, this is Panthers. let's just spin the wheel. It would be nice to have at least one. I say defensive body because I think that's sort of where Macmillan's consigned to now for the rest of what's left of this season. So it would be nice to have a defensive body back, and you've got to think with Jeff Dimmon's broken fingers. I don't think it's going to be him first, but yeah, it would just be nice to have that full roster of defensive bodies. I think the forwards can probably do the job they need to, but I think the defence are absolutely spent. I think they are knackered and they need some help.
Unusual for a doubleheader is that it's a Friday and a Sunday rather than a Friday Saturday or a Saturday Sunday. I mean, Adam, do you think that day off in the middle will have an adverse effect on either team?
It'll probably help our fans that are going over to sober up after Friday night. Not really. I mean, we're going to. It's not like we're going to get more bodies back for the second game than what we take to the ice within the first game. I suspect if we somehow manage to pull off a victory on Friday, Belfast will be even keener to make sure that they don't go through the weekend without a point. So, we could get the backlash on Sunday. But I think, as Paul said, I really can't see us competing strongly in either of the games. Belfast really want to, stay in touch with Cardiff till that last weekend. So, they'll be, no doubt, playing at a very high tempo and, wanting to take the game to us. And given that our defence is spent, like Tina was just saying, then do I hold out much hope that we can perform any sort of rearguard action and keep Belfast forwards from scoring? Probably not.
Okay, I think we will leave it there for this week. Just a reminder that our Ask TCW podcast will be back on Wednesday. You can send questions to us via Twitter. It's @CatsWhiskersTV and use the hashtag AskTCW. On Facebook, it's the Cats Whiskers, our own page on there, so you can send us a message or leave a post on the page. We've got our own dedicated thread on the Cage Forum where you can also leave a question, or you can email us. It's tcwonlinetv@gmail.com. Get your questions into us for Wednesday. Other than that, it just remains for me to say thank you very much to Adam Reddish.
Pleasure as always, Jono.
Tina Taylor.
TTFN.
And Paul Baum.
And can I just say that Jeff Dimmon's broken finger sounds like a really bad jazz band? Good night.
And on that note, thank you very much to you all for listening. We will see you on Wednesday. Until then, good night.